I'd like to see him with a different set of push rods and everything one day. I don't really like these, but it is what he had money for. And I like the push rod to sit down in here, because if you look, these are the different angle in the head. So your push rod will come down and it'll actually be at an angle, which is not a good thing, because that's how you end up with rattle noise. Front cylinder always rattles on the exhaust. And if he had this lower, then it becomes a straighter distance from rocker arm to here. Less flex, quieter. It ain't a perfect world, because shovels aren't perfect.
Yeah, I noticed on the Evos, they're solid. They're not adjustable.
Well, they need to be, in your case, we may have to go with that. Here's the thing. These were put in because it was quick production, color-coded. Can you put yellow in this hole? Yeah, okay. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Problem with these, when you change your cam, you have to determine where that tappet should set. And I always like to put adjustables in. Then I determine where that tappet sets.
So we're going to put adjustables in the Evo.
You should,
like it.
when you put a cam in. If you don't, this determines where that tappet's adjusted.
Right.
Down in here. Well, I want to adjust that because a cam runs at a different lift than it's been running. And any mechanic worth of salt
They'd rather have
replaces these.
And they want the adjustable ones. Is the
Yeah, you need to be able to adjust them. Some people throw them in and you get what you get and you get by, but I like the adjustable. I've never not used one of these because I know what can happen. So you put an adjustable in there, and I determine at 3.5 turns down that tappet sits. I don't know what that one's going to determine, but it probably ain't the 3.5 since you got a different lift cam. And a different, could be a different circumference. I'd be interested to how they work in a woods cam because they undercut the bottom side of the cam, which to me is one of the worst cams out there.
So you put a high lift cam in there, and you got to do the adjustables.
On the Evos because they're rigid. See these, even the originals are adjustable because you pick and choose. They did that for production. They didn't do it to do you a favor. They did it to save the company a few bucks. Now, if you're going to change performance, you really should put adjustables in.
I like it,
You might slide by on one motor, and the next motor you might not. Well, I don't play that game. So we'll put adjustables in there, and that's it. They're going to be expensive to have adjustables. Just a good adjustable. If you had heavy springs and high lift cam, then you want to start looking at materials it's made of, diameter, start looking at good quality stuff. But your basic stock motor with one-step lift, just a good quality adjustable push rod works fine.
And the heavier springs prevent floating of the valves, higher revs, right?
Yeah, and
we won't worry about that.
We'll look at those. I just about guarantee those are good.
Good.
They're a pretty good spring.
Thank God.
And you don't. And with a one-step cam, you're not going to be you're not going to be run out there racing and showing off. Hopefully,
no.
And you don't need to do that. But if you start getting big lift cams, then you want to look at. And you run some hours, you better start looking at springs then because you don't need a float.
Right.
But I've got a little tool over here I set up, and I look at the specs in the book, and I set up and I test each spring. And they're within specs, and almost always on the Evos they are.
Good.
But once in a while you get them where they've been hot.
Right.
Then they lose that, or a long time. Then they lose that. Well, you want to stay within specs that calls for the book. Or the manufacturer of the cam. He may have different specs you want to stay in there. I had a motor part early on where some other shop built it. It just blows me away. I still got to get a little guy who wants to do it. And when I took it, he says it was rattling. And he thought something was wrong with the push rod. I don't get that. He wrote it. I got in here, pulled the engine out. Push rod was broke and it was running at an angle. And that whoever built it put almost like a racing springs in it, which is way too strong with a light push rod. The whole formula is completely wrong in the motor. And on top of that, when I took it out, the flywheel was laying over there. I went to take the crank pin loose. The nut I spun off with my hand.
Wow.
And the flywheels fell apart. I went, wow, he's lucky he didn't blow this up. So now he needs flywheels and all.
Yeah, so it's a formula. You just can't put heavy springs in without doing the cam and the proper rods.
You have to know it's a combination.
It's a whole combination. And these guys that go out there and say, well, I want to hop up my bike, I'm going to, do this to it, and if they don't get the formula right, and that's the whole message. If you don't know what you're doing, you got to bring it to a mechanic that knows what he's doing.
And a lot of shops and that, they will sell you because it's the name at the time.
Sure.
A lot of people put in the Mallory valves. They're okay. I don't care for them. But a lot of people, because I got Mallory valves, I got stainless steel valves. Hope you do. Cast steel valve from Harley Davidson, OEM, run just as fine unless you're racing.
Yes.
But you just paid 3 times too much,
sure.
And they're harder to cut. But that's what the customer wants too. But if they get out too far, I'll reel them back. If they go too far, then I don't even want to do it.
Yeah.
What's the point? Give me a bad rap.
So you keep them within reality of.
Yeah. Sometimes I kind of got to fix the customer.
Sure. Yeah.
And teach them something. It's because they don't know.
Well, like this one with the compression release.
Yeah.
What was the
I
deal
would
on that?
have preferred. Well, he wanted a big motor. He wanted big compression because everybody talked about it, and what you read and everything. But with that, then again, you have fueling problems. It's harder on a shovel head to be high compression anyhow.
Sure.
Life expectancy becomes shorter because there's more heat. And with that, then you have a starting issue. Well, if you can't kick it and the starter turn over hard and you got to pull start it, how can you have fun riding your motor?
Yeah.
Well, S&S has never used compression releases.
You want to show
They build
take a look at these?
Engines to start and perform the best.
These
and they don't do this,
These are compression release buttons here. And
but then again, at the same point, compression releases look cool.
Yeah.
I'm not about cool no more.
Right. Yeah.
So, teach your own. I would rather, instead of doing that, put a beautiful Pingo petcock on my bike and say, anybody that ain't got a Pingo petcock, don't get it.
Right, sure.
But that's just me.
That's all about the formula combination of doing things right, so you don't have to.
Doing it right and teach his own what they want, and if you're going to do the high compression, all this, well, then expect to pay the piper down the line and don't complain when you have to.
That's right.
So in this case, he won't complain. Why should he?
Yeah.
And he's got an awfully nice motor here.
Oh, yeah.
And he will be able to start it, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, who wants to kick 10-to-1 compression?
He's
That's a
got
lot
kick
of
and electric. Yeah, I don't remember anymore if this is 10 or high or 10 and a half. It's quite high, whatever it is. Yep, you do get more response and snap. Yep, but you also got to watch your fuel. Remember we talked about that.
Sure, yeah.
Back when I was a young fella, we go out, we could buy 103 octane fuel. 98. That's good stuff. Go to an airport. Well, them days are gone. Now you're lucky if you get over 90.
Sure.
And when it's 90, it's got that anti-knock. And it's poor fuel.
I know Quent's over in Oshkosh, they got that boat fuel, that 106 or whatever it is.
Yep.
I used to mix that with my fuel for the old Norton, because that had the 10.5-to-1.
That works good.
Oh, yeah.
And same with the racing fuel. I think it's called blue fuel or something.
Right.
That's all you pay for it, and it's fun as can be.
Yeah.
But unless it's racing, I wouldn't build a motor just for that.
Not at $6-8 a gallon, no.
Yeah, and the old ones, the old shovels, they like the high octane. It made them just run because they got a hemisphere dome and all that. They're basically like a Hemi. But this is a beautiful motor. You'll have a lot of good times with it.
Yeah, that's going to run great.
But you just, I don't know, people go down different roads. But again, it's what they want. That's important.